Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night from when you're watching this video. This is John from IT Skills Academy with yet another video. Today, I present to you yet another pharmacy management system. I'll take you through how I created this simple pharmacy management system using PHP and MySQLI. To make it simple, I'll break it into several episodes as follows. In the first episode, I'll basically be introducing you to the system and also show you the basic dashboard that we'll be using for the system. In the second episode, we are going to set up the database. Then in the third episode, we'll be creating the dashboard now. And in the fourth episode, we'll be adding the patients. Fifth, we'll be adding or managing the patients and other. In the sixth episode, we'll be adding and managing suppliers. And then in the sixth and in the seventh episode, we'll be dealing with drugs, that is entering or adding the drugs into the system, and also managing the drugs in terms of editing, in terms of deleting the drugs. We'll also be dealing with the expired drugs in the 8th episode, and in the last but not the least episode number 9, we'll be dealing with the billing system, that is where we'll be managing the transactions and what have you. So hope this is interesting, and without so much ado, let's just get started. Well, this is the second episode of how to create a pharmacy management system. If it's your first time that you're watching this, we have the first episode where we introduce this specific tutorial. I would welcome you to check that first before you get to this specific point. That will just help you to understand the prerequisites and everything that you need to get started with this specific tutorial. Other than that, the tutorial is very basic, so you can start it at any specific level, but for you to be able to understand everything that is required, it's always good to be able to start at the very beginning, so that you don't miss any specific step. And as I mentioned, these are very basic system, so even if you start at this specific episode, you're not that late. So having said that, therefore in this specific episode we'll be basically creating the database. So the database is a location where we'll be installing all the records that we are going to require for this specific system. And because in the first episode I talked about the XAMPP, which is a localhost or server, or provides you with a localhost server from where you can be able to like host your own system or even website. Therefore we are able to access something that we call Phpmyadmin. So before we get there, let's first of all understand what is Phpmyadmin. So Phpmyadmin is a free software tool that is usually written in PHP and that is intended to handle the administration of MySQL or MariaDB database server. You can use Phpmyadmin to perform most administration tasks, including creating a database, running queries, and adding user accounts. So that's basically what we'll be doing in this specific tutorial. And at this specific episode, it will be all about creating a database. As you can see here, and then later on what we will be doing in the entire episodes or in the upcoming episodes is learning queries to the specific tables that we'll have created in the database. And we'll also be adding some user accounts, of course, to be able to authenticate everybody who is getting into the specific system. So to be able to create a database, then what you just need to do is to navigate to this specific location, that is a local host, Phpmyadmin, and that will take you to this specific location. So while you're in this specific location, it's from here that now you can be able to create your database. So every database that you're going to create will be appearing on this left side here. As you can see here, I have several databases that I've created, one of it being the one that houses the system that we're about to create. But for now, we are interested with creating a new database. So what I just need to do is to click on new, and this is the link that you'll be clicking every time you want to create a new database. So I'm just going to click on that, and then that will take me here. So you can see here we are in the databases. You can also be able to see that from here, and also from the tab that is currently active over here. And so all that we now need to do is to give the database a name. So maybe this one I can call it because I already have a pharmacy here, let me just call it pharmacy system. So that is pharmacy underscore system underscore db. Let me just call it or name it like that. And then of course you can be able to select one of these specific formats. So like in my case, I usually like to go with the general one, but of course you can be able to select from the available options. The general one will be the default one. So if you're not interested, you don't need to select anything. You just click on create and it will go with the default one. So as you can see, a database has been created successfully. And because we already had a pharmacy name somewhere, what it has just done is like to combine that into one specific tab or location, so that every time that you want to deal with anything to do with pharmacy, we can just click on that to collapse it, and then we're going to see our database here. In your case, it might not be the case because maybe you don't have a database named as pharmacy. Okay, so now when we do that, then the next thing that we'll be required to do is to create a table. So we'll be creating several tables in this episode. And so as you can see, first of all, we are in the current database because we have it selected, like we have clicked on it. If you can see the name of the database that you've just created here, then you could be creating a table in the long database. So just make sure that the database that you've just created is the one that is active over here. And so here, maybe I'll just start with the obvious table, and that is the users. So I'm just going to say users, and you can be able to come and put the number of columns that you want. So I'm just going to go with 4, which will be more than what I need. And so now the first thing that you need to do is, of course, to create a unique field or a column that will house the unique fields, and that's basically, or in most cases, usually the ID. We're also going to come and give it a type of integer, and the length, because we are not going to have it being so big, we're going to give it a length of 10. And basically what we want to be happening in this column is what we call auto increment, like the records that we are going to add in this specific table will be numbered progressively as a result of this column. And to be able to make the columns to be numbered progressively, we just need to come and check on this auto increment for this specific column. So this column now will be showing us the number of every record that has been added, and they will be named progressively. By also checking that, we also mark these as primary, or what we can call unique, so that ensures that you are able to pull out a specific record based on its ID. So we'll be seeing that as we continue, which should be very, very important. So every table that we'll be creating will be starting with an ID, it will be having an integer, then it will be having a length of 10, and also we are also going to have it with auto increment, which will also make that column to be unique in such a way that we can be able to uniquely identify a record using that specific value. So having said that, therefore we can go to the next one. This one maybe will be the name, and this one, let me just give it a varchar, which is a combination of text and numbers. So that could be the username of the person, and maybe this one we can give it a bigger number like 100. Then here we can have maybe the password, or maybe we can be asking for the emails and maybe the password. So no, we even don't need the email. Let me just have it with password. So for the password, again, we're going to give it a varchar so that a person can be able to have that ability of combining text and numbers. And we're also going to give it 100. For this one, we're not going to make it auto increment or unique, because now they will be varying, they will be different. So everything else we are going to leave it as it is, or blank. And so I'm just going to create. So as you can see now, a table has been created called users. We are in that specific table right now. So this is a specific fields that we have. So we have the names, ID, name and password, and then the type and everything else that we have included. You can also see the auto increment, the one that we've just checked a box. So in case you want to drop any name or any column, you can just click on the drop. If you want to edit anything, of course you can just click on the change and you can be able to change. For example, maybe we can make this one to be username, so you can just click on change and maybe I can call it username and save the changes. So as you can see now, that has been renamed like that. So as of now, we don't have any records, so we are going to see the table looking like this. If you want to add more columns, by the way, you can also come down here and you can be able to come and select how many you want to add and on which column, after which column do you want to add that specific table, or sorry, that specific column, and then you're just going to come and click go. Yeah, that specific row rather. So if I click on the browse over here, then I'll now be shown the table in a different structure. So this is how we'll be seeing our table, so that now we're able to see the records. Right now we don't have any records. We'll be creating a script that will be helping us now to insert the records in this specific table. But also remember that you can be able to insert them manually by just clicking on these insert over here, and you can be able to insert the records. If you're inserting them manually, I always recommend that you leave this blank, because as you have seen, we've made it to be auto increment, so that will be applied automatically depending on the number of record that you're adding. This is the first record, the third record, the fourth record, the 100th record, so it will be numbered as such. Then when you add your records, you can just come and say go, but that's not the recommended way of doing it, even if it is possible to be able to do that. So we've already created the users table. So the next one that we'll be creating basically is the patients table. So the patients table is the next table that we'll be creating, and so to be able to do that, I'm just going to click on the new. That is, you can see it's still below my database over here. So in this case, I'm clicking on the new table and not new database. This is a database and this is a table. You can also see the icon looks different. So I'm going to click on the new, and then again, as you can see, I'm going to see the columns here. And so now what I just need to do in this specific case is on top here, give the name or the table a name. So I'm just going to call it patients, and then I'm just going to come and click go. And as you can see here, if you're not satisfied with the number of columns that you have here, you can always come and add the number of columns that you need to include. So like in my case, when I check around here, I need how many columns? I need 13 columns, and here we only have 4 columns, so therefore means that we need 9 more. And so I can just put 9 and say go, and so we're going to have that long list of columns there. So remember, these are columns and not rows. So as usual, I'm going to have the ID, it is going to have the length of 10, and I'm also going to have it with auto increment, and then now from there I will include the rest. So that will be the name. I'll give it 100. I also need to have the date of birth. So for the date of birth, you can give it a date, but let me just give it a voucher. I'm also going to have a phone number, so I can just say phone. Let me put this, let me make this an integer because they'll just be pure numbers. Then I'm going to have a location. For this one, let me just give it what let me just give it up to 10. Date of birth, I can give it also up to 10. Length of that, and then we can also talk about email. This one can be voucher because it can be a combination of numbers and text. So for the email, let me give it 30, and then we're also going to have some other fields here. And these will be like Ragic. So you just want to see or maybe update the patient's records with maybe whether they are allergic to something or not, so that when you are giving them drugs, then we are able to give drugs based on that knowledge. Then if they also have any conditions, we'll also be having that in the system, so that we are able to manage them based on maybe the pre-existing conditions. We'll also include like other conditions, so maybe I can say other conditions. That just gives me more room of adding more stuff that I need. It's not a must that you include it anyway, but it can help a little to some extent. Then we're also going to have the column status. Some of this information will make sense later as we start entering the information. Then you're also going to have what I'm calling the date of service. So this one I can give it a date because it will be a specific date. So let me just give it a date. And this one for the status, we don't need a lot, so we don't want to we are not like going to require it to be that long rather. For this one, I'm also going to give it 10, I don't know, maybe 20, I don't know the length of a date, something 1 2 3 4 5, yeah, 10 is okay. The date is not that long. And then we're also going to have a balance. We might not use this, but let me just put it there. And we're also going to have like the registration date, like when the patient was registered to the system. And we're also going to have this one being a date, because we might require it to be automatic. By this I mean it should be applied automatically. Sorry, I forgot this. So as you can see, we have this column here that it's called the default. So this means that even if we don't have any records already filled for that row, we can have a default record that is there, that of course can be replaced by a new record. So I'm going to have one for the date, so that every time a patient is entered into the system, the date is captured automatically. So I'm going to come and say current timestamp. So what that will do is that it is going to pick the current date and time when that record was fed in the system. So that being good, then it therefore means that I can just come and create my table. So to be able to do that, I'm just going to come and click on the save, and the table will be created. And so the table is created there, as you can see. So these are the several columns that we have, and so if you want to see both the columns and the row, we're just going to click on the browse, and here are the rows. And for now we don't have any records, so we'll be creating some scripts that will be helping us to put that. Then the next table that we're going to create is one for the drugs. So I'm just going to click on the new, and this one is called the drugs. For the drugs, we just need to have several columns. We're going to require 9, so if this one is 4, then therefore means that we need 5 more. So I can just click on go, and that is added. And as usual, we are going to have the ID being 10, again auto increment. And the next thing will be, of course, the name of the drug. That one can be Vasha. The name might not be that long, so let me just give it 30. Then type of the drug, so it can be a syrup or a tablet, so that one may not be that long, so let me just give it 20. Even 10 can work. Let me also put the supplier, maybe who supplied us with that specific drug. So it could be a company, maybe having a longer name, so let's put 100. Then we also can put the price, that is the selling price. So for the selling price, maybe let me give it 100. We're also going to have a buying price. So again, that can be an integer, it can be a variable. So 100, and then we're also going to have the profit. So profit, I'm going to require that to be, let me put it a varchar, just a general type. Then we're also going to put a stock, rather, sorry, this one should be 100, and then here should the stock should appear there. So for the stock, again 100, and finally we are going to have the expiry date. So expiry date, this one can be a date, and maybe this one I can give it 100. So there I'm good to go. So I'm just going to create that very fast so that we can move on to the next table. So the next table that we're going to create is one for payments. So I'm just going to click on new, and I'm going to have the table called payments. And for the payments, I need how many? I need 8, so I need to add 4 more. So I click on go, and here as usual, ID integer 10, and this one should be auto increment. And now I'm going to have the name. Sorry, let me start with the patient ID, because we'll be trying to feed the payments of the specific drugs that specific patients have bought. And so to be able to know which drug has been bought by which patient, we'll be using this unique identifier. So I'm going to have it as an integer, and I'm also going to give it a 10. And I'm also going to have the item, or maybe let me call it the drug, that is what has been bought. Let me give these 30, and then we're going also to include balance for maybe if the patient has not paid the whole amount. Then we're also going to have what they have paid, so that is the payment. Let me give it a voucher for various reasons, and I'm also going to have a comment just in case something needs to be left behind for the sake of understanding what's going on. I'm also going to have the payment method, and that one can be voucher, and that one cannot be that long, so let me just give it 30. And finally we have the payment date, so that will be date, so that it is entered automatically, and so let me just give it 10. So the table is good to go there. So we are now creating the next one, so we are left with 2 more. So payment is good, so now we can do so we also now, so the next one will be sales, so that is sales. So this is what has been paid already. So in this again I need how many columns? I need 12, and so here because we have 4 already, therefore means that we need 8 more. So just click on go. So let me quickly feed these ones here. So there we have the table already created, so we just need to save it. And finally, now we will need one for suppliers, so I'm just going to click on new again, suppliers. So here we need 6, we have already 4, so we can add 2. Go ID, it's okay, 10, so we need to have it auto increment as usual, so I'm going to include the list. So this one we are going to set a default for the status, so we're just going to say as defined. So we are going to set it as default, and then that will be 0. So that means when the records are entered, by default the status will be 0, and then when you want to update the status, then you'll be changing it from 0 to 1, but by default it will be 0. So email, and that one can be a voucher, then maybe 30. Finally, the contact. So there we are. So just click on the save, and those are some of the tables that we're going to require for this specific project. So if we need to add any other table along the way, it will be using the same process.